right, so we are going to read our first section of Out of My Mind. So the chapters are really short. So in this section, I'm actually going to read chapter 1, 2, and 3 to you. Okay? So here we go. So chapter 1 is words. I'm surrounded by thousands of words, maybe millions. Cathedral, mayonnaise, pomegranate, Mississippi, Neapolitan, hippopotamus, silky, terrifying, iridescent, trickle, sneeze, wish, worry. Words have always swirled around me like snowflakes, each one delicate and different, each one melting untouched in my hand. Deep within me, words pile up in huge drifts. Mountains of phrases and sentences and connected ideas, clever expressions, jokes, love songs. From the time I was really little, maybe just a few months old, words were like sweet liquid gifts, and I drank them like lemonade. I could almost taste them. They made my jumbled thoughts and feelings have substance. My parents have always blanketed me with conversation. They chattered and babbled. They verbalized and vocalized. My father sang to me. My mother whispered her strength into my ear. Every word my parents spoke to me or about me, I absorbed and kept and remembered. All of them. I have no idea how I untangled the complicated process of words and thought, but it happened quickly and naturally. By the time I was 2, all my memories had words, and all my words had meanings. But only in my head. I have never spoken one single word, and I am almost 11 years old. Chapter 2. I can't talk, I can't walk, I can't feed myself, or take myself to the bathroom. Big bummer. My arms and hands are pretty stiff, but I can mash the buttons on the TV remote and move my wheelchair with the help of knobs that I can grab on the wheels. I can't hold a spoon or a pencil without dropping it, and my balance is like a zip. Humpty Dumpty had more control than I do. When people look at me, I guess they see a girl with short, dark, curly hair strapped into a pink wheelchair. By the way, there is nothing cute about a pink wheelchair. Pink doesn't change anything. They'd see a girl with dark brown eyes that's full of curiosity. But one of them is slightly out of whack. Her head wobbles a little bit. Sometimes she drools. She's really tiny for a girl who is age 10 3/4. Her legs are very thin, probably because they've never been used. Her body tends to move on its own agenda, with feet sometimes kicking out unexpectedly and arms occasionally flailing, connecting with whatever is close. A stack of CDs, a bowl of soup, a vase of roses. Not a whole lot of control here. After folks got finished making a list of problems, they might take the time to notice that I have a fairly nice smile and deep dimples. I think my dimples are cool. I wear tiny gold earrings. Sometimes people never ask my name, like it's not important or something. It is. My name is Melody. I can remember way back to when I was really, really young. Of course, it's hard to separate real memories from the videos of me that Dad took in his camcorder. I've watched those things a million times. Mom bringing me home from the hospital, her face showing smiles, but her eyes squinted with worry. Melody tucked into a tiny baby bathtub. My arms and legs looked so skinny, I didn't splash or kick. Melody propped with blankets on the living room sofa, a look of contentment on my face. I never cried much when I was a baby. Mom swears it's true. Mom massages me with lotion after a bath. I can still smell the lavender, then wrapping me in a fluffy towel with a little hood built into the corner. Dad took videos of me getting fed, getting changed, even of me sleeping. As I got older, I guess he was waiting for me to turn over, to sit up and walk. I never did. But I did absorb everything. I began to recognize noises and smells and tastes, the whump and the whoosh of the surface coming alive each morning, the tangy odor of heated dust as the house warmed up, the feel of a sneeze in the back of my throat, the music. Songs floated through me and stayed, lullabies, mixed with the soft smell of bedtime, slept with me. Harmonies made me smile. It's like I've always had a painted musical soundtrack playing in the background of my life. I can almost hear colors and smell images when music is played. Mom loves classical music. Big, booming Beethoven, symphonies blasting from her CD player all day long. Those pieces always seem to be bright blue as I listen, and they smell like fresh paint. Dad is partial to jazz, and every chance he gets, he winks at me, takes out Mom's Mozart disc, and then pops in a CD of Miles Davis or Woody Herman. Jazz to me sounds like brown and tan, and it smells like wet dirt. Jazz music drives Mom crazy, which is probably why Dad puts it in. Jazz makes me itch, she says with a frown, as Dad's music explodes into the kitchen. Dad goes over to her, gently scratches her arm and back, then engulfs her in a hug. She stops frowning, but she changes it back to classical again as soon as he leaves the room. For some reason, I've always loved country music, loud guitar, strumming, broken heart music. Country is lemons, not sour, but sugar sweet and tangy. Lemon cake icing, cool, fresh lemonade. Lemon, lemon, lemon. I love it. When I was little, I remember sitting in our kitchen, being fed breakfast by Mom, and a song came on the radio that made me screech with joy. So I'm singing, Elvira, Elvira, my heart's on fire, Elvira. Giddy up, papa, papa, mau, wow. Giddy up, papa, mau, wow. Hi ho, Silver, away. How did I already know the words and the rhythms to that song? I have no idea. It must have seeped into my memory somehow. Maybe from the radio or TV-gram. Anyway, I almost fell out of my chair. I scrunched up my face and jerked and twitched as I tried to point to the radio. I wanted to hear the song again, but Mom just looked at me like I was nuts. How could she understand that I love the song Elvira by the Oak Bridge Boys when I barely understood it myself? I had no way to explain how I could smell freshly sliced lemons and see citrus-toned musical notes in my mind as it played. If I had a paintbrush, wow, what a painting that would be. But Mom just shook her head and kept on spooning applesauce into my mouth. There's so much that my mother doesn't know. I suppose it's a good thing to be unable to forget anything, being able to keep every instance of my life crammed inside my head, but it's also very frustrating. I can't share any of it, and none of it ever goes away. I remember stupid stuff, like the feel of the lump of oatmeal stuck on the roof of my mouth, or the taste of toothpaste not rinsed off my teeth. The smell of the early morning coffee is a permanent memory, mixed up with the smell of bacon and the background of yakking of the morning news people. Mostly, though, I remember words. Very clearly, I figured out there were millions of words in the world. Everyone around me was able to bring them out with no effort. The salespeople on television, buy one, get two for free, for a limited time only. The mailman who came to the door, morning, Miss Brooks, how's the baby? The choir at church, hallelujah, hallelujah, amen. The checkout clerk at the grocery store, thanks for shopping with us today. Everybody uses words to express themselves. Everyone, that is, except for me. And I bet most people don't realize the real power of words, but I do. Thoughts need words. Words need a voice. I love the smell of my mother's hair after she washes it. I love the feel of the scratchy stubble on my father's face before he shaves, but I've never been able to tell them. Chapter 3. I guess I figured out I was different a little at a time. Since I never had trouble thinking or remembering, it actually sort of surprised me that I couldn't do stuff, and it made me very angry. My father brought home a small stuffed cat for me when I was really little. Less than a year old, I'm sure. It was white and soft and just the right size for my chubby baby fingers to pick up. I was sitting in one of those baby carriers on the floor, strapped in and safe as I checked out my world of green shag carpet and matching sofa. Mom placed the toy cat at my hands and smiled. Here, Melody, Dad bought you a play pretty. She cooed in that high-pitched voice that adults make with children. Now, what's a play pretty? As if it's not that hard enough figuring out real stuff, I have to figure out the meaning of make-up words. But I love the soft coolness of the little cat's fur. Then it fell to the floor. Dad placed it in my hands a second time. I really wanted to hold it and hug it, but it fell to the floor once more. I remember that I got mad and I started to cry. Try again, sweetie, Dad said, sadness decorating the edge of his words. You can do it. My parents placed the cat in my hands again and again, but every single time my little fingers could not hold it, and it tumbled back down to the carpet. I did my own share of tumbling onto the rug. I guess that's why I remember it so well. It was green and ugly when you looked at it up close. I think shag carpeting was outdated even before I was born. I had lots of chances to figure out how the threads of the rug are woven as I'd lay there waiting for someone to pick me up. I couldn't roll over. So it was just as irritated me, the shag rug, the smell of the spilled sour milk in my face until I got rescued. My parents would prop me up on the floor with pillows on either side of me when I wasn't in the baby seat. But I'd see the sun beaming through the window, turn my head to watch the little dust things that floated in, and bam, I'd be face first on the ground. I'd shriek, and one of them would come and pick me up, quiet me, and try to balance me better within the cushions. Still, I'd fall again in a few minutes. But then, Dad would do something funny, like try to jump like a frog when we were watching Sesame Street, and it would make me giggle. And then I would fall over again. I didn't want to fall, or even mean to. I couldn't help it. I had no balance at all. None. I didn't understand at the time, but my father did. He would sigh and pull me up onto his lap. He'd hug me close and hold me up to the little cat, or whatever toy I seemed to be interested in, so that I could touch it. Even though he sometimes made up his own vocabulary, Dad never spoke baby talk to me like my mom did. He always spoke to me as if he were talking to a grown-up, using real words and assuming I would understand him. He was right. Your life is not going to be easy, little Melody, he'd say quietly. If I could switch places with you, I'd do it in a heartbeat. You know that, don't you? I just blinked, but I knew what he meant. Sometimes his face would be wet with tears. He'd take me outside at night and whisper in my ear about the stars and the moon and the night wind. The stars up there were putting on a show just for you, kid, he'd say. Look at that amazing display of sparkle. And feel that wind? It's trying to tickle your toes. And during the day, he would sometimes take off all the blankets that my mother insisted I be wrapped in and let me feel the warmth of the sun on my face and legs. He had placed a bird feeder on our porch, and we would sit there together as the birds darted in, picking up seeds one at a time. The red one is a cardinal, he'd tell me. And that one over there is a blue jay. They don't like each other much. And he'd chuckle. What Dad did most was sing to me. He has a clear voice that seems made for songs like Yesterday and I Want to Hold Your Hand. Dad loves the Beatles. No, there's no figuring out parents and why they like stuff. I've always had a very, very good hearing. I remember listening to the sound of my father's car as he drove up our street, pulled into the driveway, and rustled in his pocket to find his house keys. He tossed them on the bottom step. Then I'd hear the sound of the refrigerator door open twice. The first time, he'd get something cold to drink. And the second time, he'd search for a huge hunk of Worcester cheese. Dad loves cheese. It doesn't agree with his digestive system very well, though. Dad also has the loudest, stinkiest farts in all creation. I don't know how he manages to control them at work, or even if he does. But when he'd get home, he'd let them loose. They'd start as he walked up the stairs. Step, fart, step, fart, step, fart. I'd be laughing by the time he got to my room, and he'd always lean over my bed and kiss me. His breath always smelled like peppermints. When he could, Dad would read to me. Even though I know he had to be tired, he'd smile, pick out a book or two, and I'd get to go to Where the Wild Things Are or Where the Cat in the Hat was making a mess. I probably knew the words by heart before he did. Good night, moon, make way for duckling, dozens more. The words to every single book my father ever read to me are forever tucked inside. Here's the thing. I'm ridiculously smart, and I'm pretty sure that I have a photographic memory. It's like I have a camera in my head, and if I see or hear something, I click it, and it stays. I saw this special on PBS once on children who were geniuses. These kids could remember complicated strands of numbers and recall words and pictures in correct sequence, and quote long passages of poetry. So can I. I remember the toll-free number from every infomercial, and the mailing addresses and websites too. If I ever need a new set of knives or a perfect exercise machine, I've got that information on file. I know the names of the actors and the actresses of all the shows, what time each program comes on, which channel and which show are repeats. I even remember the dialogue from each show and the commercials in between. Sometimes, I wish I had a delete button in my head. I have a television remote control clicker attached to my wheelchair, very close to my right hand. On the left side, I have the remote for the radio. I have enough control in my fist and thumbs to push the buttons so that I can change the station. I am really glad of that. 24 hours of big-time wrestling or home shopping station can drive a person nuts. I can adjust the volume and even play DVDs if someone pops one in the player for me. Lots of times, I watch Dad's old videos of me. But I also like the cable channels that talk about stuff like kings and the kingdoms that they conquered, or doctors and the diseases they cured. I've seen specials on volcanoes, shark attacks, dogs born with 2 heads, and the mummies of Egypt. I remember them all, word for word. Not that it does me a lot of good. Nobody knows it's there but me, not even my mother. Although she has this mom sense that knows I understand stuff. But even that has its limits. Nobody gets it. Nobody. It drives me crazy. So every once in a while, I really lose control. I mean, really. My arms and legs get all tight and lash out like tree limbs in a storm. Even my face draws up. I sometimes can't breathe real well when this happens, but I have to because I need to screech and scream and jerk. They're not seizures. Those are medical, and they make you go to sleep. These things, I call them my tornado explosions, are pieces of me. All the stuff that does not work gets all balled up and hyped up. I can't stop, even though I want to. Even though I know I'm freaking people out, I lose myself. It can get kind of ugly. Once, when I was about 4 years old, Mom and I were in one of those superstores that sells everything from milk to sofas. I was still small enough to fit in the child seat in front of the cart. Mom always came prepared and stuffed pillows on each side of me so that I wouldn't tilt. Everything was fine. She tossed toilet paper and mouthwash and detergent into the cart, and I looked around enjoying the ride. Then, in the toy section, I saw them. Brightly colored packages of plastic blocks. Just that morning, I had seen a warning on television about that toy. They were being recalled because the blocks had been painted with lead paint. Several children had already been hospitalized with lead poisoning, the reporter had said. But there they were, still on the shelf. I pointed to them. Mom said, "No, sweetie, you don't need those. We have enough toys." I pointed again and screeched. I kicked my feet. "No," Mom said more forcefully. "You are not going to have a tantrum on me." I didn't want the blocks. I wanted to tell her that they were dangerous. I wanted to tell her to tell someone to get rid of them before a child got sick. So I did. I got louder. Mom rushed out of the toy section, pushing the cart really fast. "Stop it," she cried out at me. I couldn't. It made me so angry that I couldn't tell her that the tornado took over me. My arms became fighting sticks. My legs became weapons. I kicked at her with my feet. I screamed. I kept pointing in the direction of those blocks. People stared. Some even pointed. Others looked away. Mom got to the door of the store, yanked me out of the cart, and left it with all of her selections sitting there. She was almost in tears when she got to the car. As she buckled me in my seat, she almost screamed at me. "What's wrong with you?" Well, she knew the answer to that one. But she knew that was not my usual behavior. She gulped, sniffled, and finally calmed down. I hope the people at the store watched the news. When we got home, she called the doctor and told him about my crazy behavior. He sent a prescription for a sedative, but Mom didn't give it to me. The crisis was over by then. I don't think Mom ever figured out what I was trying to say that day. And that is the end of chapter 3.